Well, excited to get another opportunity to play and to go on the road against a good Nebraska team. And again, I've liked the way that we've prepared this week and need to finish that out and give ourselves the best chance we can to play well Saturday and try to win it.
Where have you seen Jack make the biggest adjustments or improvements as he's had to face tougher defenses as the season goes along?
You know, that's a good question. And I think he has continued to grow and get more comfortable, and probably in each week's preparation and knowing that you know, each defense is going to give you a different look. Each defense has, you know, its own strengths and to it, and yet I think there's also enough, you put all the games together, enough things that, you know, just experiences, whether it's a situation or you know, spacing, you know, kind of where I'm at, or how do I trust, you know, what we're doing, you know, that you can kind of carry those forward and go. But I've loved the way that he's approached each week, and you know, I think it's also important that the players, they know that he is all in for them. You know, he's extremely unselfish, but I think that, you know, last year, you know, he started games and gained experience. I think this year he's kind of owning that experience a little bit more, and it's probably a natural progression, you know, from year one to year two.
You've been pleased with the way he's been able to limit mistakes for the most part that kind of put the defense in bad situations? It doesn't seem like he's made too many of those.
No, I mean, you know, I think you're right about that, and it's always a fine line, because you still have to go out and play, and you want guys to play. And, you know, if you approach, I don't care what position you're playing, but if you approach it like, how do I not screw up here? That would be a hard way to play the game. And yet, I think there's some natural, you know, that's a natural tendency, right? Especially guys that care about the team. They don't want to be the one that causes something. And so I think he's obviously past that, you know, and I think he trusts those around him and goes out and plays. And I think he has done a good job of kind of balancing that, you know, at times being aggressive and going with it. And I think it all comes down to trust. You got to trust what you see, trust those who are doing it, and trust yourself, and then you go play the game. But you know, each game there's things that he's done well, and, you know, each game there's things that, yeah, he'd like to have this pass back or this decision. Maybe it's a non-pass, right, that he didn't do. But I've loved the way that he's approached it.
Paul, in one of those illegal formation calls against Iowa, you clearly disagreed with the call. Did you send a tape into the league, and if so, did you get a feedback on whether that was?
Yeah, I stopped. You know, and I appreciate what, you know, the officials, everyone's doing, and a lot of that was kind of stemming from a lot of the inconsistencies we felt throughout the game. As far as sending it in, unless it's something that the ones I really want to send in and get the feedback on, was this the right call? Is it something that, can we coach? How are we coaching it? What is being said? So that it's, to me, it's still about how do you go forward with it. And so to me, that didn't fit that. I understood the rule, know the rule. We saw it differently, and yet there wasn't a lot of, to me, gray. Like, we know what it should be. There's a lesson or a coaching point to be made, you know, just in the communication with the official. But really, where I like sending them in is not to see how many, if we were right or you were wrong, as much as how do we coach this game better going forward. Yeah, and a lot of that comes, you know, kind of, you know, in blocks. What is definition? This looks like that. You know, is this, how do you see this? We'll probably turn in more that weren't called and say, is this the proper no call? Because that can be, if you just assume, okay, well, they didn't call it. Want to make sure, like, we thought this was a little bit on the edge. Nope, we're good with that, or yeah, it should have been called. You want to know that as much, because you're going to correct the ones that are called. But I think you got to be ahead of it a little bit, and the ones that aren't being called, are we doing the right thing, playing it the right way?
Well, you talked about the game that Mason played last week. Where do you think he can take the next step in his progression through his career here?
You know, I think it's. I thought he did. You know, and not just last week. I think he's been playing well, and I think for every player, there's just that natural progression of, okay, I've done it, and now I've started to stack some things together and continuing to be consistent on it. And I think that, you know, certainly, you know, there's a number of ways that he can still work to get better. But I like the track that he's on, and it's pretty cool. Each week's a different test. You know, I mean, you face different teams, and they're going to fit runs differently, or you're going to be matched up with someone else on a pass protection, and so I think they kind of the tests, the opportunities for growth kind of come by playing more, and that's where he's at. But you know, he's certainly done a lot of good things, and now it's to continue to do that.
Well, if you look at Nebraska's defensive numbers against the run, they haven't really shut people down. But is there some talent in that front line and in the front seven that concerns you guys?
Absolutely. I think it's a very talented team. You know, and I think, you know, specifically talking, I think that, you know, up front, they're big, they're athletic, you know, they're powerful. I think what they do schematically, you know, there's enough different movements or pressures or the way that they, you know, we know that anytime you play a 3-4, there's a lot of added components to it. And so I think there's a number of ways that they can stress an offense. And, you know, they'll do it not just with the, you know, down linemen and linebackers, but the safeties, the corners, you know, they get involved with it. And so I think that, you know, certainly you look at it and there's good football players, really good football players. You know, they've got an outside linebacker that's as kind of flexible as he can play backer. He can match up and be really good in coverage. You know, the corners have played a lot of football and think those are good players. Safeties will, you know, can cover, and they'll come in and be factors in the run game. I think it's a really good defense.
What's the number of the outside backer you were talking about? Remember his number?
13.
I know Newman hasn't necessarily played yet, but what is him going on the travel roster? For true freshmen in terms of preparation or just experience of going on the road?
Yeah, I think all that's exactly it. You know, that, you know, he's going on the trip because he is preparing and to play, and you're right, hasn't gotten in yet, but I think those are all really important aspects to it. And, you know, I think we've done it before where you've brought, you know, a guy on a trip and just want them to understand it. But I think when you have to go through the week and you're in the meetings and, you know, you go to bed the night before the game saying, you know what, I might be playing. It's a different preparation you have to have, and I think it's been really good for him.
You know, Roger said in November he wants it the colder the better. Are you okay with a 58-degree weather forecast for kickoff?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, whatever it is, I think you embrace it. And he can speak like that, and he's right, you know, for him, and he knows it. But for us, just I'm appreciative of being able to get an opportunity to go with this team down and playing against a good Nebraska team.